second that we adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the action items, which is the first action item, which is to approve the consent agenda, which is the July minutes, payment of the bills, classified personnel actions, waiving the first reading of the emergency policies for the pandemic and Title IX policies and procedures. So I'll give you a couple minutes to look at the bills.
I just sent them around. You're gonna look this.
Acceptable just to look through them, and if you're all right, just to sign it, not wait till after we approve the motion.
So the Tyler Technology, is that all the Chromebooks?
No, that's your school information system and the accounting software.
So you got all your hires in there?
No, actually, we have one position in the kitchen to fill. I thought we had somebody, but then we had somebody back.
to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Patron input? No patron input? Okay, informational reports, financial reports. Kim, do you have a report?
I don't have a lot because we are in the process of doing the audit. So I'm working with Jen. I've been working with her this week. We'll be working together again next week and hopefully getting everything turned in and finished up. But it's a good thing because we started earlier than last year. So hopefully we'll have things wrapped up sooner than normal and I'll have reports for you next month. So.
All right, thank you, Kim. Technology director's report.
Just got a couple of quick things this month. One of them, and Joe's here so we can talk about that at the same time, the radio project is finally finished. So we did a test run in the Colorado, which is not the most ideal vehicle to take out for something like that, but it was better than nothing. We had complete clear receive signal every place that we went. So we went clear down off Cherry Lane, all the way up through Troy and Deary. So we've got a pretty impressive amount of signal. We had signal all through Watcher Gulch, so that's going to be handy for a lot of stuff we're going to do. I did get a text from the radio engineer telling me that he was receiving our beacon for our two sites at South Grade and over at Tecan. He was receiving both beacon signals in Tico. So that's how far that signal throws. So that's north. I'm curious how far south it actually goes now too. So the vehicles have all been programmed. We have portables out to both of the buildings. Joe actually now has a tether, a radio tether we placed on him, so he has a radio to be raised on. So that's all done and put to bed. Mr. Kirkland and I are currently working on a blended learning grant that the state of Idaho has sent out. Basically, it's for things we didn't get, things we ended up having to purchase because of coming to hybrid instruction. So when we already did that in the spring, any odds and ends that we had that we needed to get taken care of, we have additional monies for that. So we're going back and taking purchases that we did there, rolling it in. And then also future planning. If we have to go remote and we're in a hybrid environment, what tools are going to make this a better experience for the students and for the teachers in the long run. So we sent our first draft of that off to the state. The state went, we want this reworked, and okay, not a problem. So that's what I'm currently doing right now, is trying to get that done so we can get that sent off probably tomorrow if I have it all done. So that way we've got some future planning, so we can get those monies in, and that'll help backfill the coffers and some of the stuff that we've already spent cash on from last year. So that's pretty much what I've got, other than school getting back in. We're trying to get everything ramped up and keep everybody safe. So any questions for me? All right,
No, thank you. That was a big project, so glad to hear it worked out well.
Hey Dan, I do have one question. If we end up doing a hybrid method or remote learning from home, I know a couple other areas kind of had like some Wi-Fi hotspots that kids could go to, and get logged on to do their work. Is that something that we could do with a partnership with the library, or even just being outside of the building? I don't know, something to consider.
That gets tricky, and that's something that we actually worked on and worked with the state. The main issue that you have there is trying to find a good location to do that and get the right coverage for it.
Yeah.
I can tell you that in looking at all of I put together a map of everybody in the district who didn't have internet access, okay? And I had to go through and then run that against, what is it because they can't physically afford it? Or is it because they literally are, like in my situation, where I literally don't have it? And I'd say 90+% of our students who don't have internet it's because they can't afford it. And it's in, a majority of them are in Julietta proper. So we're trying to work with the internet service providers to say, is there an ultra cheap method we can get them to be able to do that, so that way we don't have the infrastructure costs and we don't have this gear going in, that it's a huge drain on the state, it's a huge drain on us. Can we just get them stuff in their home so they can work comfortably in that environment and do it that way? And then you're gonna still have the people that are way out in the toolies that, I mean, there's not much we can do to help.
What kind of numbers did you see when you did your math? Like how many, I know you said 90% live in Julietta, but how many?
No, I mean 90% of us have it, but
Okay.
I'd say 70% of them are just in Julietta proper.
Okay.
And, within 2 blocks of the school, that type of thing. And far enough where I can't throw it out to, because I worked a number of different scenarios and talked with other tech directors about, because where we run into a major problem with this is, like, let's say I was to throw an aerial on top of JES, okay? And I was gonna do an antenna that would then, I would do like a 4-facing front. So if you think of it, it's shooting out a signal like this, and we go, okay. So now we've got that, and we have it broadcasting over Julietta proper. I've now become an internet service provider.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so now we run into all these legal issues that it's like, oh goodness. And then the other part of it is, from a security standpoint, we also, and that's the other thing I need to tell you guys about, glad you reminded me. It makes it that much more difficult to harden the perimeter from people trying to actively attack against that.
Yeah.
Right now we have it set to, if you're gonna try and word drive against my network, you're gonna have to be really close to the building or inside the building to be able to do that. If you're gonna word drive against it and I have to broadcast it to everybody in the sun, you're gonna get hacked, so.
Well, just keep us up to date. I just want to make sure if we eventually have to go that route, that we're doing what we can.
Oh,
to support
absolutely,
those kids.
and we're keeping that in mind. The last one I wanted to tell you about was Verizon every year they're one of the largest data handlers in the world. Okay, if you think about all your phones and everything, they are one of the largest data. Stuff goes through their systems. And so one of the things that they do every year is they do this thing called it's a data breach report. They go through every major data breach that gets reported, and a lot of other ones too. And they compile a list for industry saying, what are the trends in all the different areas? So that way we can look at it over time. So it goes back roughly about 10 years of data points that we can say, okay, this was really popular 3 years ago. It has diminished and then it's come back in a different form now. So that way we know what to protect against. So the education one, and I can't share the slides because they're confidential, but the education slide that came out said that 80% of all the attacks that have happened in the past year are all ransomware.
Or all what?
Ransomware. So what happens is they send you an email that looks legit, right? Hey, I need you to respond to this. We have an invoice that's due. You're like, oh, okay, I'll click on it. As soon as you do that, it executes a program, which then goes through and encrypts your entire drive. And then they want money from you to unlock it. And some of the major variants actually go way worse, way further. Nampa School District got hit with a variant of a ransomware, and it took out the entire district. They had literally had to start over on everything. And it took weeks for them to bring it back. And long story short, the major mitigating process for this is to have a good security training system and to actively test your users. Well, we have that already in place. And so tomorrow morning at 7:30, all of the users are going to be getting an email for their new user training and refresher training. And one of them, the components that they're going to have to pass on the module is for ransomware. So we need to keep that first and forefront in everybody's minds to understand that we're in an environment where you're going to get tons of emails in a day, whether it's on your personal device or whether it's at school. And you've really got to vet those sources as they come in, because I checked with, I had Kim check with Morton and Company, and I got the parameters of our insurance should we actually get attacked. And so I know what we can work inside of, how much it would cost us, and if we had to go beyond that. And so we're set okay money-wise on that right now, but I'm just planning in case something like that were to happen. So That's not what I've got.
It did happen to us already. It's already happened to us, Mark.
Yeah. It was really well contained. It only happened with one user, but as I explained to them, we're not paying the ransom to get back. So anyway, anything else? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Principals report. JS.
James. We're just gearing up. We have training tomorrow on Friday with the teachers of math training, and then next week we have leader in lead. We're just getting up, gearing up for next Wednesday. Excited about it. We are holding at 134 students currently, so we're maintaining that. Pretty excited about it. That's all I have.
So what does it look like for numbers?
134 students. So we left at 134 last year. We're maintaining that with 134.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, at the high school, we've got registration open as well. We've had that open since August 4th. We had a new student registration day Monday. But we are encouraging our families to register and do everything online this year. We won't know our attendance, what we're looking at as far as enrollment until the first day, but we expect it to be pretty close to what it was last year when we ended. We got some new students, we got some students that have moved, so we'll see on that first day. Our new teachers have moved in. They've been moving in and getting ready for the last few weeks. Actually throughout the summer, I should say, really. So they are ready to go. Fall sports participation numbers are there. This time of year is when those numbers can change here and there, so we'll see here in a week or two what it looks like, but that's where we started. For the district, I noted that I mentioned to Chad, we've got almost all of our positions filled now except for the KHS kitchen, so we're looking for that. Staff come back tomorrow officially. We'll have smaller meetings this year by building and department rather than an all-district meeting, just to keep the number of people here lower than what we normally have. It's usually pretty packed in here. The Idaho Healthy Youth Survey outcomes, I sent those out in the board packet. I didn't print out individual copies because of how big it is, but hopefully you got to take a look at that. It's always got good, interesting information. That survey is administered to 6, 8, 10, and 12 graders. I did include some of the main information there on my report there. For each substance, prescription drugs, marijuana, tobacco, vaping, and alcohol, there's 2 lines there. The shorter line is the used in at least once in the past 30 days. You can't tell there because of the lack of color, but you can see that vaping is increasingly becoming an issue. And the other ones are trending downward, but vaping is trending upward. School reopening information, we've had roughly 6 families indicate that they were not going to bring their kids back this fall for various reasons related to COVID. We've been ordering a lot of items for all of this, a lot of cleaning items. We've got some items like our bottle filler stations and our automatic paper towel dispensers are back ordered just because that's tough right now, getting some of those things in. So as soon as we get them, we'll get going on that. We did get, and Joe, you can probably explain this better than me, but we got a backpack cleaning sprayer that will allow the custodians to go through the buildings quickly to disinfect.
It's an ionizer defogger is what it is.
Okay.
And it'll kill the viruses. It'll kill all the viruses. It's your flus, your COVID-19s, and so forth. It's to kill them all. And it's it'll do 8,000 square foot per load, which is 2 tablets and like 4 gallons of water. And you fog your room or the area where the people are that have been infected. Yeah. So it'll speed up the process, and we should be pretty safe.
Yeah, too is, you know, we want to be able to still allow our custodians to do a lot of the normal cleaning things that they do, but still disinfect the building. And even after, you know, we're past this, that'll be a good item to have during flu season at the buildings. Let's see here. The district leadership team worked on a recommendation for a hybrid schedule. That'll be presented tonight in the action items for you to review. Annual reporting measures. So the annual reporting measures, these are from 1920, from last year. This is the information that we compile annually. And we track annually and report out along with our continuous improvement plan. So our continuous improvement plan doesn't necessarily change year to year very much, but this is what we spend most of the time on. Because we didn't do a lot of testing last year, there's a lot of information missing from it this year, but this is the information that's due to the state board in October each year. You can see some of the data from last year though. And then hopefully we'll be able to collect that information this year as well. Some of these things on here like SAT and PSAT and stuff, Mr. Eggers has been getting ready for that to administer the PSAT this fall and move forward with those things. And the last thing is a thank you card for the board that I passed around, and now I'm not sure where it is. Don's got it, okay. And this is Circus, so if you haven't seen that, go ahead and take a look. And Amy's going to talk about ISBA.
So we have ISBA convention that's supposed to be happening in Sun Valley. I don't know if you've all received emails, but that has been turned to virtual. It'll still happen at the time of November 11th through the 13th. I had a survey emailed to me yesterday, I believe, down from Misty with ISBA, and so they're just trying to see the time frames, what people want, and then she's going to get back and get some more information. Do you all want to plan to attend virtually? There's still cost attached to it to attend virtually. So if you do or don't, just send me an email and then I can get us registered. There hasn't been a registered deadline yet, so they're still trying to probably work out some of the plans. So it will be virtual this year. That's all I know.
Quick question for you, Steve. The 6 families that don't think they can send the kids, this is what you're going to do in groups, sending the kids, you're going to do homeschooling, you're going to do one of the online things that are prevalent.
I think that, I don't know if we have a lot of consistency with what everybody's doing, but we are offering IDLA for people.
Our IDLA here.
Yeah.
Can they get in?
One will do a part-time here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got, we had the spots reserved at the elementary level, and so we're probably not going to fill all of them. We had 10 spots.
Oh, okay.
I think we're not. I don't know how many spots.
I have 2.
So we've got spots we're going to probably not fill and give away, but
New families coming into the area.
there's a lot of homeschool options out there. There's a lot of different things people can do, and so we're offering up IDLA, but if people want to utilize that, they can. But if they don't, that's fine too. Does that answer your question?
All right, thank you, Steve. Any trustee reports? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll move into the action items. And the first action item is the bus route. So, Joe, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah. The bus routes are going to stay the same as we've had for a number of years, which which is 5. All the bus drivers will be back. As far as the COVID goes, we're going to have the first ones on go to the back of the bus, and we'll keep them separated as best we can at 6 foot. But families would be asked when the bus starts to fill that they sit together. At this time, masks are optional. And as far as areas that have a large amount of kids in it, and we're going to have bus opportunities to make some shifts on that to try to keep some of the kids' numbers down on the buses. So in doing that, Bear Ridge route is a small number of kids on that. We'll be able to pick up some through other areas that the Cedar Ridge kids normally get on that bus. And to try to keep that separated down is the way we're going to try to keep the numbers down.
So will they be changing buses, or will they just be taking to Juliet? Everybody just goes to Juliet?
That'll be on the route into Juliet. And then in the afternoon, there's a large amount of kids that are coming this direction. And we'll be putting more on a couple buses instead of all. Because on that one bus, it's 2 or 3 kids. And we're coming this way anyway, so it would be wise to be able to put maybe a dozen or so on that one.
So basically, there'll be a little bit more movement from Kendrick to Juliet and back in the evening. More buses.
No, we're just going to, the buses are still making those routes. It's just that we're putting them on a different route because they're going right by the same area.
Okay.
You know, so instead of getting on the south
Well,
line.
my question was, it would seem to be that once you're on the bus, and you shouldn't have to change here in Kendrick.
No, we're not going
And
to
you
change.
don't.
Correct. Now, at the beginning of the year, there's going to be some challenges there because we're going to try to make this, you know, the first day or two to get everybody getting picked up. And then we're going to have to make some shuffling. But we'll do that at the elementary, you know, as they're coming on. They're coming this way anyways. So, yeah. It's going to be a communications thing, I'm sure. So, I think it's doable.
Okay. Any other questions for Joe?
If you'd like, I could move on into the facilities. All our projects that were approved have been completed, except the VOAG AC unit, heating and AC unit. I'm meeting with him tomorrow, actually, and trying to get that project going. But there won't be any problems with school starting and so forth. All the classroom materials and everything's been put back together. It's looking pretty good, real good, actually.
So since you brought up facilities, I was just wondering, what about the ventilation in the classrooms? What have you done in that area, or have you done anything?
Yes. We got CO2 counts that we'll be reading, and those CO2 counts, I can open up the outside ventilation systems in each of the classrooms, which is a move that we've been making for a number of years and putting in new HVAC units. So that's now bringing in new air, fresh air, hopefully, and be able to keep the CO2s.
So once you get the students in the classroom, you'll be able to tell with your CO2 monitors how you're doing.
That's right. That's right. Gymnasium's the same thing. Yeah. So it's throughout the rooms in the buildings.
Is that automatically controlled?
They can be, but also overridden by me. Yeah. With alerts that if there is issues. And in the fall and late spring is the areas where we normally will see that issue. So because it's warm and all the bodies are in there, it goes up very quick.
Hey Joe, with the buses, so between Kendrick and Julietta, we're gonna spread kids out a bit to decrease the numbers on the buses. The actual routes out into our district, are those gonna be essentially the same?
Yes, routes will be the same.
They're unchanged.
We're just talking about these kids that are between the two communities. That'll be, shuffled on different.
And we talked at the previous meeting about about temperature taking, and where are we at on that? Is that something that's happening at the schools when they get dropped off, or is that not part of the green? I'm trying to remember.
No, there was no plan to at the beginning.
Okay.
Part of our concern, and that's, you know, when I talk with the health department and Carol meets with our superintendent meetings, like, she talks about the challenges associated with that. And like, that's not ideal, doing that. I mean, you've got kids running in the building that may have an elevated temperature, that they're not sick. And then you're trying to send kids home that really aren't sick, and parents are at work. And so she really recommends that as kind of the last resort type option if we really need to.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, if a kid is symptomatic.
I just wasn't sure what we had
always do
finally
that.
had discussed.
And we've done
I know we
that
kind of
normally
went over-
throughout
Mhm.
the beginning, since I've been here, we've always, they're coming in sick and, I wanna go home, we take them,
Sounds
make
good.
sure.
Wonder why. So is there any more discussion on the bus routes?
I'll make a motion to approve the bus routes for 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bus routes as presented for 2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
If I could say something here, I'd like to give Dan a big hand getting all that communications. He's worked hard on that, and you know, as we discussed a year ago today about getting the ball started on that, that was a big project, and we're excited about it, and our drivers are, and I think our school district in whole will be in a whole lot better situation. So thank you, board and Dan, for making that happen.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, the next agenda item is consider amendments to the fall reopening plan, and I'll turn it over to Steve.
So there's two things here that you have before you to just really add to the reopening plan. The first one is a flow chart, just to help give us some guidance in the event that we were to have a positive case. If you want to take a look at that, and really, this isn't something that we just created. We got this from the health department, and then we really, I looked at it, and I can't remember if the district leadership team looked at it or not, but I looked at it and made some adjustments to it. What I thought went with our reopening plan, and then sent it back to the health department to review it. They made some adjustments and then sent it back. And I think maybe we talked about this last month, I can't remember, but this would just be an addition to our reopening plan in the event that we have a positive case. You can see there, and really the top section is probably the most important section there to us as far as how we're going to respond. If we do have exposure, maybe a staff member or a student in the building that's been tested positive, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk with the health department, and talking with superintendents today. There was a positive case in Moscow, a student, and it sounds to me like the CDC actually has representatives that call and do a small investigation as far as how that's going to affect other people. And so really, I mean, we're gonna work with them as far as how we respond to something like that. But in that case up there, it sounds like there was a positive case with a kid. 7 other kids had to quarantine, and that was it, based on the CDC's investigation. So I would guess it would be something similar to that. I think, we talked about it last month in the district leadership team. We've been talking about it. I think really our best defense is doing as good as we can as far as distancing and encouraging mask wearing. I think if we can do those things, we're probably going to put ourselves in the best position to have less kids have to leave if we do have a positive case. And ultimately, that's the goal. We want to stay open. So that's our approach. And I think that's probably all I have to say about the flow chart. Is there questions about this? I mean, ultimately, we want to stay open. Obviously, we want to keep people safe, which, if we're doing that, then we're open. We want to keep school open. We want to keep sports going, and so we're trying to do everything we can to keep that happening. And our staff, Joe's been doing a ton of work with, ordering and getting the buildings ready. The custodial crew's been doing a ton of work, so that's where we are right now. The second part, if there's no questions about this flow chart.
One question I have, and of course I know a little more because I'm up on campus and we're getting quite a few cases with students and already having quite a bit of quarantine happening up there. So, I don't know if it's better I just don't know the best recommendation. I think my guess, just knowing our community and seeing what I see when I'm there versus what I hear, is we'll see very few masks being worn. So, which is fine. I just think that the likelihood if we have a case, that probably means most of the class has to quarantine.
Yeah, we'll do our best to encourage. A lot of the kids aren't. I mean, and I was a little bit surprised. Like a lot of the kids that have been coming in the office are more than 50%.
I think we might be surprised on that first day. You can personalize it now. You're kind of, I don't know, trained, but I know that my daughter went out and bought her mask and she decided to wear it. So I think we might see more than.
I ordered 100 more school masks. They should be here the first or second week of September. Everything's a little bit slow right now, but it's still something.
Our disposable masks set.
Yeah, and we've got some cloth ones too that we got. The state has given us a lot of free stuff, and a lot of masks were included in there. So we have a lot available for people that want them.
So I don't know, granted we know in a lot of classes 6 feet will be easy to do, but are they, if CDC gets involved, are they just going to assume that, if we say they're sitting 6 feet apart, they're going to trust that, or do you think they're going to be a little more aggressive and shut down that class? I don't know.
I think, so what we're trying to do, and Joe's doing this with buses too, in the classrooms, we're trying to track where everyone's sitting at all times, even in the lunchroom. And so we'll know, who has had close contact, and we're trying to keep groups together, because, we're hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst, and so we're trying to keep the number of kids that would have to go home to a minimum. The mask thing, I think that, honestly, I don't think that they would even talk to the school. I think they'd probably be talking to the individual kids and families. So I don't know how much we would really be involved in that process. I guess if it happens, we'll know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're dealing with college kids there, so the college kids are getting called versus, the parents. So,
right, yeah.
But I know we already have a fair amount quarantined.
Yeah.
So.
Some of our classrooms we can distance pretty well, and some we can't. We've got some big classes, a few of them. So we're just going to do the best we can, and we'll definitely encourage teachers to keep their distance from the kids as best they can, which is kind of opposite what we normally want to do, but under the circumstances. And if we do have a positive case, we'll be able to look and see which kids have been sitting close to that kid in every classroom. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
With all the different motorcycle groups coming through town today and going to the bars and stores, and then having the virus in Sturgis, I wonder how long it's going to take before it gets here. I've been about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I hate to go to all this work and have to shut down for 2 weeks.
That's, if we can do anything more, even if they don't like it, I would encourage us to do it.
The second item there is a hybrid schedule that in the event we had to go to a yellow category, the district leadership team went through different options and is recommending this one. So pre-K through 6, all students would attend Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, with Wednesday being a remote learning day and a cleaning day for the school. And grades 7 through 12 would be an AB Wednesday online day AB schedule, with 50% of the students attending Monday and Thursday, and another 50% of students attending Tuesday and Friday. Wednesday would also be the remote learning day for the secondary. Special education students would possibly attend all 4 days. So, you know, as you look at this, this is just a recommendation, but you can see that it's more aggressive towards keeping elementary kids in class rather than secondary, because I think that most folks on that team acknowledge that it's a little bit more doable for secondary kids to be at home, online learning, especially for families where parents work. And it also recognizes special education students, are more at risk when they're not in school, and have more difficulty with the online learning, and so we would try to keep them in the building as well. Questions about that?
One question I have is if we do end up with a full class or a big chunk of a class that has to be quarantined, is the plan to kind of just do online learning with that class with the teacher?
Yes.
And then the few that can still come to school,
Yep.
is still in person?
Yep. So, and this is we're going to talk tomorrow when the teachers and I here at the high school and at the elementary with Dory talk. We're just going to talk. We're going to talk about that scenario. So if we've been those families that aren't necessarily coming back this fall, and they're doing homeschool, like we're throwing out IDLA or whatever they want to pursue. If a kid is here and then has to leave, we're going to treat it just like a student that would be sick any other time and do the best we can to serve that kid. And if the numbers get too great, like obviously that would become overwhelming for teachers, and that's when we would definitely probably be considering a different category.
As kids come back, like the first couple days of school, are teachers, they're going to be training for kids, or do's and don'ts, expectations from various teachers? How's that going to get conveyed, and what the expectations are?
Mm-hmm.
What we want kids to do different?
We do those things first period, first day. Teachers have talking points that they'll get tomorrow. We do that anyway with everything, so we'll just do this with the COVID stuff as well.
And how are your teachers feeling with everything as a whole?
That's hard for me to answer. Probably all over the board.
Mm-hmm.
Does this flow chart make it easier, I guess, for you to do your job? So it's reopening, is it?
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, it does. Here's where it helps. I think it helps because I think if we can just tell folks, because how it is right now. I mean, everybody's pretty anxious about all of it, and a lot of it has been politicized, and so just the mask thing. I mean, that's really like a difficult topic. We're coming at it from the standpoint like we don't necessarily care about that. We just want to stay open, and so if this allows us to stay open, then okay, we'll encourage it. Same with the distancing. We're going to do our best because it will hopefully allow us to stay open. And so, this really kind of shows people, I don't know if people really are going to get into the weeds of this, but this just shows you, if we have a positive case, if other people aren't doing what they can to protect themselves, they may be forced to quarantine at home, no matter how they felt about all of this business. And so, that's kind of where we are.
Seems to me we go into Costco and Albertsons and Home Depot, we're all required to wear masks. Or you have little kids who go home to older adults that babysitting them and watching them. We don't require a mask. We're just putting ourselves at risk, putting the kids at risk.
And, you know, this, you know, the reopening plan, you know, I mean, it really is, like, you know, we're adding some stuff tonight possibly, you know, I mean, it's a living document. I mean, if we get down the road and the world's falling apart, I guess we amend it if we need to, whatever parts to it. I mean, we can do that as we go, and, you know, I mean, just having some of these things in place though now, because school starts next week, allows people some, you know, maybe a little bit of ability to plan. This is, I mean, it's tough because things are changing so quickly, just like last spring. But, you know, if we do have a hybrid schedule, you know, kind of ready to go, might give some families a little bit of peace of mind. We reviewed quite a few hybrid schedules, maybe 4 or 5. In the end, they're all pretty close, and they're all, you know, some pros and cons to every one of them. You know, some districts are, you know, they're not bringing their elementary kids every day. Some districts are. High school, some schools are going AA, day off, PP. Sometimes you're using like the Friday maybe for the online day or the Monday. So people are kind of, they're all similar, but they're all a little bit different.
I move we approve addition of the flow chart and hybrid schedule to the building plan.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendments to the fall reopening plan. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, and I guess we're in policies. Adopt policy 4175, required annual notices. Say anything about that, Steve?
This is a new policy. We had a first reading last month. All the policies tonight, I separated them out because I received them at separate times, and they all kind of have a little bit different thing going on. But this is just one that we reviewed last month. It is a new policy from ISBA. This is unrelated to anything going on right now. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the policy 4175.
Thank you.
Been moved and seconded that we adopt policy 4175. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Okay, so then there's action item D, there's a bunch of amended policies, maybe we can kind of go through those.
Yeah, so I lumped these together. These are the policies that we reviewed last month. These are just normal amendments due to change in Idaho code each year.
I move we approve the amendment of the list of policies.
I'll second.
It's been moved that we amend the listed policies. And I won't go through those, they're all printed there. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. E is amend policy 3535, immunization requirements.
This one was not reviewed last month because we didn't have it, but I did put it as an action item this month before review because it simply aligns with Idaho code and updates our immunization requirements for the school. It actually, I think ISBA just missed it. It was supposed to be out a while ago, but they caught it. So it just adds that last table on policy 3525 that you see there, the summary of 12th grade immunization requirements. This is already in code, so we're already doing it, but now it aligns, our policy aligns with it.
3525.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded we amend policy 3535. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item F, which is about the emergency policies and Title IX policies and procedures.
So this one we just got from ISBA, and I'll just read you what they wrote. Based on guidance from legal counsel and other school board associations, we're releasing to you today an emergency series of policies. Most policies in this section originate from the corresponding number in the main model policy manual. The emergency policies include language to address issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. These versions are intended to be adopted in addition to the non-Series C policies and procedures, superseding them until the health emergency passes. And so these are temporary for the time being. Yeah, that's it. I did not print out individual copies, but I included them in your board packet. There is a hard copy if anybody wants to review it. I didn't print out copies because it's so big.
I move we approve adopting emergency Series C policies.
I'll second.
And what about the Title IX too?
And then
Okay. Been moved and seconded we adopt the emergency Series C policies and the Title IX policy and procedure. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Amended policies due to COVID-19. 4105, public participation in board meetings and leadership premiums. I think the leadership premiums, they just aren't going to get one.
Yeah. So there's just a little bit of language in those policies, and I have them in your board packet there, the changes. So what we've been doing is we've been just allowing people to submit their public comment to Amy before the board meeting. She'll present it, especially like at times when we have an online meeting. This just puts it in the procedure, that ability to do that. The leadership premium policy simply adds the language, in extraordinary circumstances where funds are not appropriated for leadership premiums, this policy is suspended until such funds are replenished by the state.
I'll make a motion to amend policies 4105, 4105F, 5480.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded that we approve policy 4105, 4105F, and 5480, amending those policies. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item H, which is considered COVID-19 sport and activity guidelines. Turn it over to Steve to speak to that.
So with this, you know, the schools worked together, the league worked together, the Wet Pine League, to come up with some protocol to keep some consistency between the schools. There's still some differences between the schools, but there's a lot of consistency. So the ADs worked to create this, and then the plan was adjusted a little bit just to align with our reopening plan. And this just helps, it helps sports, gives them some guidance, gives Mr. LeBlanc some guidance with sports and going from there.
Are there any, is anything we're doing stand out different from various schools or vice versa?
No, there's a couple schools that are going to require masks for visitors. That's one main difference. And so kids and spectators, when they go to those schools, and we'll put that out to families before we play to remind people. Some schools are using a stage in between yellow and red that they're calling orange. And in that stage, I believe spectators would not be allowed at the games, just the participants. We didn't include that, but we made a note under yellow that could be something that if the board decided to do, we would do in yellow, rather than just making a new stage for it. Those are the two big differences.
So have there been any changes in the sports schedule other than the Middleton game, or is it just basically?
Well, one change, we were going to play left wing, we canceled it
Okay.
in football. That was it. There was a volleyball change. There was a thing we were going to go to that got canceled in Tottenham, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, I think so.
But most of the,
Yeah, it's mostly all normal schedule right now.
Are our sports numbers, have they changed from past years? And we're seeing fewer kids playing? No, that's it.
Yeah.
any other questions about the sport and activity guidelines?
So this isn't part of the reopening plan. This is just a.
It's kind of a separate entity. Yeah.
Expect this to be done with a living document like that.
Yeah, I kind of do actually. The ADs are meeting right now actually down the hall. So I'm hoping they don't make any changes to it.
Yeah.
I probably will now that I've done this.
I move we approve the sport and activity guidelines as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the general guidelines for sports and activities for this year. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Board member input for future agenda items. Doesn't sound like we have any. The last item is to adjourn.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.